Good evening. I'd like to call the order the City Commission meeting for the 10th day of September at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here. We will have an invocation by Dr. Steve Harness of the First Baptist Church of Winter Haven, and we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Vanessa Castillo, our city clerk.
Let us pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you in the name of Jesus Christ to thank you for blessing us with this wonderful city. Thank you, Lord, for giving us such a fabulous place to rear our children and our grandchildren. We thank you so much, Lord, for the leaders of our city who profess to be men and women of faith. And right now we pray for the safety and protection of all of our city employees. We pray for all of our first responders. We pray for our police officers. We pray for your protection, your guidance, and your wisdom. I pray that you will bless and meet them at their point of need. Help each and every person to seek your guidance in all they do, both professionally and personally. Lord, we pray for the future of our city. I ask that you will grant this city your favor. This will be a place that provides not only, Lord, a beautiful setting for us, but also a place where our children can grow up learning what it means to be good citizens, learn to follow you, and to give back to the community the blessings they have received. Right now, Lord, we just ask for your wisdom and your grace upon the men and women gathered here. We pray that the decisions discussed and made will be a blessing to our town. Bring glory and honor to your name. We pray that your truth, Lord, will be most important, more than human applause. We confidently bring these requests to you because we're asking them in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have no presentations, no developments of notes. Commissioners, you have the minutes.
I think there are any. There's none this evening.
Oh, there are no minutes on here. I'm looking. Where are the minutes?
Lots of meetings.
All right. I won't go there. All right. But then the next item that we have is my statement. State law requires the first substantive issue to be discussed at this hearing are name of the taxing authority, City of Winter Haven. Rollback rate is 6.2912 mills. Millage rate to be levied is 6.5900. The reason the Avalon tax revenues are increasing. The Avalon proceeds resulting from the difference between the proposed millage rate and the rollback rate will be used to offset increased operating costs and fund capital projects.
Mr. Mayor, will you read that third bullet point, please? I think that would be the percentage increase in the millage over the rollback rate.
The percentage increase in the millage rate over the rollback rate is 4.75%.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, John. All right. I'm just looking at the agenda. Oh, okay. Normally, we have the comments
After this.
after this. All right. Okay. Ordinance's first reading. Would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, and if you won't mind, I will read these next two ordinances in their entirety.
Yes.
As we normally do.
All right.
Ordinance number O-24-43, an ordinance of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, adopting a millage rate to provide sufficient funds for projected expenditures of the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Whereas on September 10th, 2024, the City of Winter Haven held a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas a budget has been prepared estimating expenditures and revenues of the city for the ensuing year with detailed information, including revenues to be derived from sources other than ad valorem levy, and recommendations have been made as to the amount to be appropriated for the ensuing year. And whereas the City of Winter Haven strives to provide a level of service consistent with the expressed desires and demands of its citizens, and whereas it is necessary that the taxpayers of Winter Haven also be willing to share the common expenditure of said services and to provide funds therefor. Now therefore be it enacted by the people of the City of Winter Haven, Florida as follows. Number one, the millage levy for fiscal year 2024-2025 is hereby set at a rate of 6.5900 mils. Number two, the millage rate of 6.5900 is 4.75% higher than the rollback rate of 6.2912. Number three, if any word, sentence, clause, phrase, or provision of this ordinance for any reason is held to be unconstitutional, void, or invalid, the validity of the remainder of this ordinance shall not be affected thereby. Number four, the ordinance will take effect on October 1, 2024. Introduced on first reading this 10th day of September 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, you have a fact sheet that speaks to this ordinance on first read that ultimately says exactly what the city attorney has just shared with you. I'd just like to point out a couple notes that I shared with you during the budget presentation back in July. So again, the millage rate is recommended for adoption at 6.5900 mils. That is higher than the rollback rate. In comparison to the other 18 taxing jurisdictions within Polk County, that would include the 17 municipal taxing authorities and the county. Winter Haven is the 9th in that list of 18. That doesn't include any special taxing districts. The tax rate in Winter Haven was last raised in 2018. You may recall we raised it by a mill at that point and specifically earmarked those funds just for capital. It was lowered in 2022 by 0.2 of a mil. The current property value, should you be interested, the gross property value in Winter Haven is now at $4.75 billion. So that is what that tax rate is applied upon. So we're recommending that the commission vote on this evening in order to advance it to second reading, which will happen 2 weeks from now on Monday, the 23rd.
All right. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move for approval of ordinance O-24-43, adopting the millage rate for fiscal year 2024 and 2025.
Thank you. I will now close the commission meeting and open the public hearing. I have one person that would like to speak on this particular item, Craig White. So you can do so at this time by stating your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Craig T. White. I live at 409 Chance Avenue in Winter Haven, Florida. I'm here to talk about the millage rate increase. A lot of the people here are on fixed incomes, retired, and I know people like myself who are still working. We did not get a wage increase of this percentage. And so this is going to be a lot of money. Also, a lot of people are moving to Winter Haven, so even though they're putting more demands on the services, they're actually increasing the tax revenue to help offset those. So has this all been taken into consideration, or?
It has.
I'm sorry?
It has.
It passed, okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just
Yes.
add one? Because
yes. Because I think, go ahead, you can go ahead.
he mentioned a millage rate increase, and that's not what's occurring here. The millage rate is actually staying the same, but if you take the last year's values of the homes, then that's how you get that lower millage rate. But because everybody's property values have increased, That's what that gap is, and city staff can probably explain that more eloquently than I, but the millage rate is actually staying the
Staying the
same from
same.
the previous year.
Okay, because I thought it was increasing from 62763 to 66.
No, the tax rate's
5.2.
actually, it's actually staying at the exact same millage rate as it has been since 2002, or 22, I'm sorry. And Mayor Pro Tem, you're spot on with that. The rollback rate is associated with prior years' revenues based upon property values. Property values increase, but the tax rate is not changing. Tax rate's staying exactly what it was in 2022, 2023. The rollback is something that we are required by statute to note. Every city is required to do so. I believe the counties as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing none, I close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Ordinance O-2444, would you read in its entirety, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for the record, Vanessa, when you do the minutes, please note that that was a unanimous vote of approval. I'm sure it will be reflected that way. Ordinance number O-24-44, an ordinance making appropriations of funds for defraying the expenses of the municipal government of the City of Winter Haven for fiscal year 2024-2025, adopting the budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 as the official budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida fiscal year 2024-2025, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Whereas Florida statutes require each taxing authority to annually adopt tentative and final budgets. And whereas the City of Winter Haven has held workshops and commission meetings regarding the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. And whereas estimates have been made by the City Manager of the City of Winter Haven as presented in the budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024, showing that the sum of $263,692,218 will be required for defraying the expenses of maintaining the government of the City of Winter Haven, Florida for the fiscal year 2024-2025. And whereas the budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 anticipates sufficient revenues to fund projected expenditures of $263,692,218. Now therefore being enacted by the people of the City of Winter Haven, Florida as follows. Number one, the sum of $263,692,218 is hereby appropriated out of all of the various revenues accruing to the City of Winter Haven and set aside for the purpose of paying the expenses of and maintaining the government of the City of Winter Haven for fiscal year 2024-2025. Number two, the budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024, on file in the office of the City Clerk is hereby adopted by reference as the official budget of the City of Winter Haven, Florida for fiscal year 2024-2025. Number three, if any word, sentence, phrase, clause, or provision of this ordinance for any reason is held to be unconstitutional, void, or invalid, the validity of the remainder of this ordinance shall not be affected thereby. Number four, it is the intention of the City Commission that sections of this ordinance may be renumbered or relettered, and the word ordinance may be changed to chapter, section, article, or such other appropriate word or phrase in order to accomplish such intentions, and that sections of this ordinance may be renumbered or relettered, and the correction of typographical and/or scrivener's errors which do not affect the intent may be authorized by the city manager or his designee without need of public hearing by filing a corrected or recodified copy of same with the city clerk. This ordinance shall take effect immediately upon its passage. Introduced on first reading this 10th day of September 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had done a presentation to the commission, I believe it was July 17th, highlighting actually in great detail everything that is within our budget. I would like to just take it rather than, and if you'd like to have the full presentation again, I can certainly do that. But I think if you're comfortable, I have some very high-level points that I think summarize what was shared with you in July when we crafted the budget. So, again, the budget, the total budget is actually $297.6 million, but once you account for the internal transfers that take place and where money gets moved from one fund to another, that brings the budget to actually $263.6 million. Our ad valorem revenues are projected to account for $27.79 million. So right around 10% of the budget will come from the ad valorem revenues. Some unique things that are within our budget: we continue to provide $250,000 for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. consistent with the commission's initiatives there. There's $320,000 that's earmarked for nonprofits. There are 40 agencies that will be funded through our nonprofit grant and aid program this year. $285,000 for our community partners, which includes the Winter Haven EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Winter Haven, and Polk Vision. $295,000 for our homeless initiative targeting families with school-aged children. That is something that we coordinate with Heart for Winter Haven. And about $294,000 for the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District to offset the costs associated with our Winter Haven Area Transit fixed route system here in Winter Haven. The budget includes 630 full-time employees and 106 part-time employees. Of those, 29 full-time employees are new positions. 12 of those are within your general fund. Some of the positions that are included within the budget in the full-time side, 6 new police officers to help address the growth that we're having in our community, along with a specific position for our records retention for body-worn cameras, new staff with an additional staff person within the city clerk's office, within our public affairs and communications operation, in our building, water department, and solid waste operations tied specifically to growth we're experiencing in our community. And then also 2 mechanics within our fleet operations just to help maintain the number of vehicles that we operate day in, day out. We also have 106 part-time employees in our workforce. There are 24 new part-time employees. Almost all of those are within your general fund and are aligned with the expansion of the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. Those positions won't come on until the 4th quarter of the fiscal year. That also includes library staff, as we'll have a branch library in that facility, and then also staff that will come on probably in January, part-time staff associated with the Chain of Lakes Park renovations, as that project will be set to open. So in total, when you combine full-time and part-time employees, 736 employees total, or bodies total. The budget includes the continuation of our STEP plan for employees that happens on the employee's anniversary at either 2.5% or 3.5%, consistent with a program we implemented in 2021. It also includes some adjustments to salaries so that we bring all of our starting wages to no less than $16 per hour. That was something to try and achieve what it really costs to live within Polk County and to remain competitive within the marketplace. Our entry-level positions are oftentimes some of the hardest positions for us to fill, given that people can do much less labor-intense work in much more, I'd say, accommodating environments, working in retail or in fast food. That's who we're competing a lot with in that regard. Of the budget, about 45% of it, or a little over $134 million, goes towards capital. So that's investments in new facilities, in roads, in equipment, in major expenses of things that will last longer than 5 years and have a higher dollar value. Personnel accounts for about $60 million of our budget, or about 20%. Operations, fuels, insurance, consumables account for about 19%, and about $56 million. Outside of those things, we have costs associated with debt service, support of other funds, grant and aid, those types of things that make up that difference. The utility fund continues to have a transfer into the general fund. That number, by policy, we had adopted several years ago, was to get that down to a 12% of the operational revenues for the last audited year. We have been able to make that threshold for the past 4 years. So we committed to bringing that number down, and we have been able to hold that over that time. General fund also, just as you may recall, it's not just the things that are within the general fund. In other words, police, fire, parks, planning, city hall operations, those types of things. The general fund also provides support to the library, the airport, cemeteries, the golf course, the transportation fund, the construction fund, the dark fiber fund, affordable housing trust fund, and urban forestry. The largest expense within our general fund, and rightly so, is in public safety. We want to make sure that our residents are safe at all times. The combination of police, fire, and safe neighborhoods, also known as code compliance, is about $30.7 million, or about 42% of your general fund operations. A little bit more than what the actual ad valorem revenues generate. The pension costs, we have 3 different pension programs, one for police officers, one for firefighters, and one for the general employees. Those costs are going up, as we would expect them to, as you have increases in salary, that are above what the assumption rates are for those pension plans. You also have some rates of return in the early part of last year that were below assumptions. And then we also, and I think this is a positive, we are experiencing a relatively inactive mortality rate, meaning that when our employees retire, they're having much longer, prosperous lives. And that's a good thing, but it does come with additional costs because they're on your pension for longer. The general fund balance, I think this is probably one of the most positive things I can share with you, is forecasted to be at 36% at the end of the fiscal year of 2025. That is about $4.1 million above our 30% goal. And as you know, what our policy allows for is for those monies that are above the 30% goal to be used to offset capital construction costs that are subject to fluctuations in the market pretty much daily nowadays. That 36%, as it stands today, accounts for about 4.3 months worth of operations. So if you have a hurricane, a natural disaster, some crises, a global financial crisis, which we hope we never see again, a housing market bust, that is your rainy day fund, and it is well established, and the commission has given us very good guidance and adopted fiscal policies for that. The last thing I'll mention to you is the CRA. You have a CRA, Community Redevelopment Agency, that has 2 districts, the downtown district and the Florence Villa district. Those are both included in your overall budget of the $263 million. The Florence Villa revenues for this year are estimated to be $1.3 million. That money has gone before the advisory committee and the board for what was recommended for the capital investments of those dollars. Also, the downtown CRA district is anticipated to have revenues of $3.75 million. A couple specific things or significant things that are included in the budget for next year. We have included those 2 additional Polk Correctional Institute crews. I've talked with Julie Adams this morning. We expect those to come online in the coming weeks. That is going to help us offset some of our maintenance activities that we have. We're doing some routine improvements with our fire stations, within the police department, in some of our parks, some of our trail resurfacing, a complete redesign effort for Lions Park. We have improvements to the Women's Club building down on Lake Howard, as well as to the Garden Center. Within our activity fields operations, improvements at Sertoma Park for a new storage building for our football programs that are out there, and some equipment. And then within our streets division, some pedestrian bridge repairs along the Chain of Lakes Trail, continuation of our efforts to install electric charging stations. Most of those will occur at new facilities that are being constructed today. And then also our ADA transition plan. In the airport, there are a handful of projects to include obstruction clearing, our remote control tower project, the Commerce Park, which is some horizontal improvements out there to spur future economic growth at the airport, the emergency generator project, taxiway e-extension, and then an update of the master plan. I remind you that in the airport, we will spend a little over $5.2 million on improvements out there. The city's portion of that is about 19 cents of every dollar. That is due to FAA and FDOT grants that we've been able to secure. Major capital projects within the general fund include the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center project, which if you've been on MLK, that building has been completely raised, and we are prepping the site for the new facility to develop there. Chain of Lakes Park Phase 2, again, everything has been raised there, and you can start to see where the new baseball fields will be coming together on that site if you drive by. The Lake Elbert Trail project is under construction. I understand that that is expected to be complete sometime in the summer of 2025. The construction of a new building division offices in the old fire station. We just did a walkthrough of that with potential contractors today as they prepare their bids for the request for qualifications on design build services. Rowdy Gaines pool renovation, new HVAC operational systems at Normale Hall. The Lake Conine recreation components, those are also under construction today if you happen to drive Lucerne Park Road. Fire Station 4 is expected to open up this fall. I was told that they are already hanging some of the drop ceiling in that facility, so that is moving quickly along, and we are in the early design discussions for Fire Station 5, which will occur on Lake Hartridge. Both of those have costs that are in this coming fiscal year. Lake Silver, you have a project that is up for consideration on your agenda this evening for the revetment project on the west side of that, adjacent to the Chain of Lakes Trail to address erosion. And then some improvements, the first phase of improvements at the Diamondplex complex, which are mostly associated with new lighting. In the Transportation Fund, Pollard Road, the second phase of that project. The first phase is complete. We are now working to bring forward the second phase, which goes basically, from wastewater treatment plant 3 all the way down to Logistics Park Road. That again has a significant amount of DOT grant money associated with it. Our TIP project, Transportation Improvement Program, that is the resurfacing of streets. We have $2 million set aside for that. A number of projects that are occurring around Lake Howard. If you've been from the Lake Howard Canal at Lake May, headed kind of south and to the west, you see that that sidewalk project is under construction right now. There will be a second sidewalk project that goes from 15th Street just past the South Lake Howard Nature Park. There's also a section that goes along the eastern side of Lake Howard from the parking and boat ramp area just at the end of Central Avenue back towards the Lake May Bridge. A number of sidewalk projects throughout the area, and then we are getting closer and closer on our quiet zones, which we've been working on for a number of years, and I know that Commissioner Powell is smiling down on us, waiting for that to happen. So maybe he can encourage some divine intervention there to help us get that done even faster. In the downtown CRA, the work around the FDOT pond at 5th Street, some undergrounding of presently overhead utility lines, street lighting along Avenue C, Southwest and 2nd Street, some property acquisition to try and spur new economic development, and then signs and gateways, signage for wayfinding and gateways, as well as improving bus shelters to make those covered facilities so that our residents that use that Winter Haven area transit system, in some of those cases, we have new shelters for them. In the Florence Villa area of our CRA, improvements to the Neighborhood Service Center. Again, property acquisition, trying to assemble parcels of land, remnant pieces along First Street predominantly so that we can assemble those and make them more attractive for future economic development and investment there. They're contributing some money to the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center project, some residential infill lots, again, also bus shelters in that area. Your Stormwater Fund has expansion of the Lake Howard Nature Park. This is the former WSIR radio station property we acquired several years ago. That project is moving forward. A sediment project on Lake Idle, a stormwater project on Lake Idle, and wetland restoration project. This is a joint project that we're pursuing with the county for a significant piece of land on the north end of US 17 on the west side of that road. That is also projected the key to moving that forward is the award of a DEP grant. Your $1 million that I mentioned was set aside in 2022 for capital improvements. Most of these projects I've mentioned, but $2 million of that $1 million is what goes towards the TIP. About $480,000 to replace playgrounds as they age and need to be upgraded for safety purposes. The renovations at Diamondplex are included in there, rehabilitation of some of our trail systems, Heritage Park beautifications, some improvements to the field house and the women's club and the garden center also fall within that as well. The biggest area of our budget really falls within the utility operations, so Winter Haven Water. We've had quite a few discussions on this as of late. So wastewater treatment plant 3, the early stages of the development of the Bradco Farms project that we closed on. We bought that property in December of last year, and we are beginning to move that forward. I think I mentioned to you at our last meeting, and you approved an action that ties back to a $6 million plus grant that we're getting from Resilient Florida for that effort. Water treatment plant improvements, a new maintenance and administration complex, our interconnects with Dundee, Haines City, Auburndale, Eagle Lake are included in there. Continuation of our septic to sewer program, some aquifer recharge projects, and then also water distribution system expansion. Overall, I think it's an extremely feasible budget. It's a very responsible budget. Certainly, we do not fund everything that comes across my desk or the CFO's desk. There's a lot of needs that are there that we have to prioritize and make some tough decisions on. But I think based upon what we've been able to do this year, again, maintaining our millage rate where it is, trying to pursue as much grant money as we possibly can. And as I said, when it comes to employees, making sure that we are competitive, not just in recruiting to fill our vacant seats, but also to retain the exceptional workforce that you have, but also really focusing on public safety. 2 new fire stations, in the time frame that we're doing those, is a commitment to making sure we're able to respond to those emergency needs in our community. 6 new police officers, again, same concept. Investing in the apparatus and equipment that they need, those remain top priorities for us. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and we recommend that you approve the budget on first reading this evening so that it can advance for a second hearing on September 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion to approve ordinance O-24-44, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2024 through 2025 on first reading.
Thank you. I will now close the City Commission meeting and open a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to ordinance O-24-44 may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, reopen the City Commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the ordinance is adopted, and the second reading will be on September the 23rd.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
We have one person that has signed up for comments from the audience, and we will call you when we get to that item, which is 11C. However, if there's anyone in the audience that did not sign up that would like to address the commission, you may do so at this time. All right. On its second reading, O-2436, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commission ordinance number O-24-36, an ordinance amending ordinance 23-25, the 2035 Winter Haven Comprehensive Plan by revising the future land use map series by amending future land use on one parcel from neighborhood support future land use to neighborhood suburban future land use, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. General location, the parcel is generally located at the northeast corner of Buckeye Loop Road and Palm Nut Drive. The area covered by this request is 3.68 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager, has much changed since the last reading?
Nothing has changed, sir. I did send to all of you this morning, just so you had it, a copy of ordinance 22-20. just for reference, which was the original PUD ordinance on that property. And to confirm a question that Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Yates had for me, everything that is to the east of that red box is part of the Bradco Farms Conservation recharge area that the city purchased in 2023 December.
Thank you.
If you'd like any further explanation on this, I'll defer to Eric Labby, our Director of Economic Opportunity and Community Investment.
Commissioner?
Is that the old inspection station right there?
That is, sir. It was the emissions checkpoint
Right.
from way back when. It is now a Polk County maintenance facility. I think that some of their crews that work on their facilities are housed there, or their equipment is anyways.
I'm old enough to remember going through that building and getting my
Getting your emissions checked?
emissions checked.
Anyone else?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor.
Entertain a motion. Yes.
Motion to approve ordinance -24-36 on second reading.
Thank you. I will now close the commission meeting and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to O 2436 may do so at this time. Come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Name is John Bannon with Wooden Associates Engineering. Address is 1925 Bartow Road, Lakeland, Florida, 33801. Just a couple points, and I'm for the applicant, sorry. Just a couple points I wanted to highlight. As far as compatibility, can you bring up the land or the zoning map, if possible?
Is it in there?
It's in their packet. But we
Okay,
don't have a
okay.
slide.
So most of the surrounding uses are residential. So this is kind of the one outlier. It's existing zoning.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second,
Sure.
Commissioners. That's going to be page 4 of 6 on your fact sheet. Is the land use map, and the zoning map will be page 5 of 6.
So zoning map shows primarily residential uses surrounding R3 and R2. The existing zoning is PUD, and the existing PUD allows for outdoor storage and outdoor parking, RVs, boats. So this change will bring this to R3, which is more compatible with those surrounding uses, being all residential. And so when you look at R3, there's obviously an intent by the city there to encourage single-family housing, but also R3 is low-density multifamily. So the proposed project would be multifamily. It would be duplexes. I know there was a question last time too about the allowable height for multifamily in that area. So I think it allows up to 4 stories and 50 feet, but the proposed project would be max 2-story duplex units. And when you look at the site, also it doesn't actually have any existing residential properties actually abutting it. So you've got Buckeye Loop to the west, you've got Palm Nut Drive to the south, and then you've got the county facility to the north, and you've got the city property to the east. So the site's naturally buffered by roads and existing properties, and then there'd be additional buffering that's required as part of the site plan approval. So it's a project that would bring kind of a mix of housing to the area. There's a lot of R3 there, but when you look at the aerial, it's all single family. So this would provide that mix, I think, that the city was looking for in that area along Buckeye Loop of some multifamily, more affordable style housing. As far as the impacts to the area, it's a small site. The site's only 3.6 acres. So when we're talking about number of units, the project that we're looking at doing is only is 32 units. So when you look at impact for traffic, which I know is always a major concern, we're only talking about adding 10 peak hour trips in each direction on Buckeye. As far as available utilities, you've got existing water lines, existing sewer lines along Buckeye Loop. So there's existing utilities in the area. So it's easy access to existing utilities. And then as far as environmental, No real issues with the site. It's been used for variety of purposes over the years. It's been used for lay-down yards for DOT. So the site's mostly cleared, no real environmental issues. So just wanted to point out those couple highlights, and I'm happy to take any questions anybody has.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Hearing none, O 2436 is adopted. O 2437, would you read by title only, city attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-37, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida by rezoning one parcel from Plan Unit Development PUD zoning district to multi-family residential low-density R-3 zoning district, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. General location: the parcel is generally located at the northeast corner of Buckeye Loop Road and Palm Nut Drive. The area covered by this request is 3.68 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you. And since this is a zoning, any,
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a companion ordinance that addresses zoning, which changes it from a planned unit development zoning district to multifamily residential low-density R3 zoning district.
thank you. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
a motion to approve O 2437 in public hearing.
Thank you. I will now close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to O 2437 may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Hearing none, O 2437 is adopted. O 2441, would you read by title only, city attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-41, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Winter Haven, Florida relating to utilities, amending sections 19-136, 19-138, and 19-152 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, amending and adopting rate schedules 1-R and water, wastewater, and reclaimed water rates, fees, and charges effective October 1 of 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028, together with an annual automatic increase for all utility rates, fees, and charges therein, commencing October 1, 2029, and thereafter, all without further hearing, assessing a per-bill administrative fee, a per-bill repair and replacement fee, and a Polk Regional Water Cooperative surcharge on certain water users, assessing a surcharge on all rates, fees, and charges paid by outside city customers, amending and adopting a schedule of miscellaneous charges and fees and other municipal services fees kept on file in the city clerk's office, together with an annual automatic increase for all rates, fees, and charges therein, commencing October 1, 2025, and thereafter, without further hearing, articulating legislative intent, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, for severability, for codification, and for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the longer titles that we've had on an ordinance in some time. You've had a number of presentations on this. Joe Williams has been our consultant with Raftellus. He was not able to be with us this evening, but Michelle Galvin is here this evening. She also worked on the study. In high-level summary, Raftellus Financial Consultants performed a study of the city's water and sewer rates, fees, and charges that was dated August 15th of this year, provided a thorough fiscal analysis of the city's water, sewer, and reclaimed water system revenues from utility user rates, fees, and charges, and municipal expenses. That study recommends that the city revise its current rate schedule for water, sewer, and reclaimed water service rates, fees, and charges. We refer to this as Schedule 1R, to adjust and increase the effective rates over a period of 5 calendar years to amounts that are just and equitable. The recommended adjustments include, for fiscal year 24-25, charges for water, sewer, and reclaimed water service on Schedule 1R should be increased to meet projected net rate and system revenue requirements. In fiscal years 25-26, 26-27, 27-28, and 28-29, Charges for typical residential utility service on that Schedule 1R should rise annually by 2.5% for water and annually by 7.5% for sewer, and charges for other uses should rise annually in accordance with general wastewater and water industry rate standards. It does include a regional water cooperative surcharge that should be imposed on residential water users with use in excess of 5,000 gallons per month, and on all gallonage used by irrigation users, and on all gallonage used by commercial users. That is in consideration of the costs associated with alternative water supplies stemming from the Polk Regional Water Cooperative. A per bill repair and replacement charge should also be assessed to provide a revenue source dedicated to capital asset repair. As you will recall, that cost is significant year over year. However, the recommended rate that's proposed is a fraction of that to keep that as equitable and feasible as possible for our customers. Municipal charges and fees such as meter installations, temporary services, lien search charges would increase commensurate with modern personnel rates and vehicle trip costs. In addition, Raftellus recommends that Schedule 1R rates, fees, and charges should rise by 2.5% annually each October 1st, beginning in 2930. So you have a Schedule 1R that outlines what those rate adjustments would be very specifically for each year up through fiscal year 29, and then after that, just go to a 2.5% adjustment as they had historically been. If adopted, the rate changes imposed by this ordinance to Schedule 1R and the schedule of miscellaneous charges and fees would happen automatically each October 1st without the need for further advertisements or public hearings. So when you adopt Schedule 1R, you're adopting that 5-year schedule at this point in time, so that doesn't come back have to be reviewed each year. You're saying at this point in time, this is what those rates need to be. Modifications to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, made by Ordinance O-2441 are necessary to implement the new proposed rate structure. The ordinance is expected to have a positive fiscal impact to the city's enterprise fund, which is the Water and Sewer Utility Fund, and is expected to provide revenue streams for operations and maintenance, administration, repair and replacement, minor capital costs, major capital costs, regional water cooperative costs, and fund balance transfer to the general fund. Our recommendation is that based upon the Raftellus study and in furtherance of the city's efforts to provide efficiencies and implement best management practices, the city's utility staff recommends Ordinance O-2441 be adopted by the City Commission, and that the city manager or designee be authorized to take all further necessary actions related thereto. Just pointing out something from the presentations that Mr. Williams had made and comments from myself and Gary Hubbard, who is with us this evening, our Winter Haven Water Director. Presently, when you look at a customer who is at 3,000 gallons per month, and I'll just reiterate, about 75% of your residential customers are at 5,000 gallons per month, about half of your customers are at 3,000 gallons a month. So we look specifically at those 3,000 gallons per month customers. Winter Haven is presently the lowest water rates in the entire county of the water utilities. This adjustment would make us the second lowest. By comparison, neighboring cities at that same amount of 3,000 gallons per month are as high as $20 more per month or greater. So it is an effort to keep our cost for our customers low, while at the same time considering the improvements that need to be made to the system stemming from the natural age and life expectancy of utility systems, keeping in mind some of these have been in place, these systems have been in the ground or been operational, major plants for over 50 years, some of our pipe, for much longer than that. The cost to improve those facilities in modern day is significantly greater. I share with you that when you have a rise in fuel costs, that impacts our operations significantly. not just in the equipment that we operate, but every piece of pipe that we buy is a petroleum-based product. The chemicals that we purchase, the delivery of those continue to increase. The cost of building wastewater and water treatment plants in today's environment continue to escalate. I shared with my staff today the estimated cost of improvements to water and utility systems throughout this country is estimated to be at $1 trillion in terms of need. So I think that your staff in water has done a very good job of identifying their capital projects over the next 5 years and beyond. Ralph Tellis had used that information to assess what our rates should be. We then work from that point to make sure that they're feasible, and that's what's presented for your consideration this evening. So we're
Thank you.
recommending approval on second and final reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve ordinance O-2441 in public hearing.
Thank you. I will now close the commission meeting and open the public hearing. We do have one person that has signed up to speak. Susie Casey, would you please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Susie Casey. I live at 42 Lake Link Circle Southeast in Winter Haven, which is on Lake Link Estates off of 542 Dundee Road. I came in to try to get you to table this and maybe look at some new options instead of raising the rates. This is a basic thing for everybody. We always know that there's a lot of people that's fluxed into Winter Haven. I don't know if they're in the city limits or if they're outside the city limits, if they're in your water and sewer zone or if they're not. I'm not a CPA or an engineer, so I don't have a lot of qualifications except just a general attitude. We tried to get a red light on Dundee Road from the state when they did 542, and they would not do it. It is horrendous trying to get out on that road now because of the traffic. It will be backed up sometimes all the way from Carl Floyd Road out to 27. And you have to have a good Samaritan to let you out most of the time. Maybe we can check and see, I don't know if you've checked into annexing any property into the city, if you're not interested with all the flux of people coming in. And maybe you could check for some grants, because there's a lot of potholes and ditches and stuff in the roads in the city now, and that could be caused because the pipe system of the water and the sewer has not been properly maintained. And maybe there's some public funds and some kind of grants that could be used to solve some of that problem, instead of just automatically raising the rates every year. I've lived here in Lake Link. I've lived in Winter Haven since 1971. We've lived in Lake Link since 1987, except for when we had to move out when our house burned down, but we still own the same property. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I will close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion?
I'll just add that, I appreciate the speaker's comments this evening, and I know I take that to heart anytime we look at increasing anything that's going to impact our residents. But when, at the end of the day, you look at what our infrastructure needs are, and we do apply for so many grants, and we're successful on so many of those grants, thankfully. That allows us to keep the water rates so extremely low as they have been for years. And even this, we're going to go to the second lowest, which I would imagine, and I don't know what the city of Bartow is contemplating, but I would venture to guess that Bartow could potentially, very likely, see an increase that they're considering, and that would have put us right back at the bottom of the number. So it's just such a minimal number that is going to impact our residents, but it's going to go a long way to strengthening and hardening our infrastructure going forward. You can get into the discussion of potentially, should we have done this sooner? Should this have been done years ago? we can't Monday morning quarterback it. We've got to look at where we're at today and what our needs are. And I think it's just such a minimal impact overall, and it's something that we're all going to have to pay up here. Nobody escapes it, and everybody kind of puts forth their fair share. So as I appreciate the comments this evening, it's a small pinprick to the bigger issue, but it helps immensely. And so I think this is the right direction.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Hearing none. O 2441 is adopted. O 2442, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-42, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, relating to utilities, amending and revising the schedule of rates for water and sewer connection fees, providing authority for an administrative increase for all water and sewer connection fees equal to the percentage increase in the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index on the 1st of October of each year without hearing, creating Section 19-154 Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, providing for connection fee price lock agreements for large-scale projects, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for codification for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So now we're speaking of water and sewer connection fees. For the benefit of the audience, these are fees that are paid by new development that occurs within our community and are intended to offset the impact that they have on our existing infrastructure and the need to expand that as a result thereof. Raftellus Consultants, again, provided this study for us, completed that in August of this year. Their study recommends that the city revise its current rate schedule for water and sewer connection fees to adjust and increase the effective rates to net amounts that are equitable, provide for reasonable recovery without exceeding the current cost of expansion-related capital improvements associated with, again, new construction, and take into consideration reductions from revenues derived from other sources that are anticipated to pay for a portion of the expansion-related capital improvements. The recommended adjustments include an increase from $1,669.50 to $3,671.25 for water, and an increase from $4,196.50 to $8,175 for sewer. We do have a special South Industrial Area connection zone covering the industrial development south of Wastewater Treatment Plant 3, more commonly known as the ILC, or an Intermodal Logistics Park, ILP as we refer to it now. In those areas, an increase is recommended from $962 to $2,730.75 for water, and an increase from $3,454 to $7,000 for sewer. Bear with me one second. Ordinance 2442 makes a specific fact finding that the Raftellus study is a qualifying demonstrated needs study that would justify a present extraordinary need to amend and increase the water and sewer connection fees beyond what the Florida impact laws phase-in limitations are. Even though this is not considered a impact fee per se, we do try and adhere to that should that ever be challenged in the future. The schedule of connection fees established by this ordinance will not take effect until January of 2025. It is expected to have a positive fiscal impact accruing to the city's water and sewer connection fee accounts, which are restricted funds used solely for the expansion-related capital projects for treatment and transmission capacity. Staff recommends Ordinance O-2442 be adopted by the City Commission of the City of Winter Haven, and that the city manager or designee be authorized to take all further necessary actions related thereto. Go back to a comment that I had made during the prior presentations along with Mr. Hubbard and Mr. Williams. Having the connection fees increased for new development is very much in line with having new development pay its fair share of cost associated with coming onto the system, and not pushing that cost on to higher utility rates for our customers. So it is the balance of those two that allows us to maintain a very low water sewer rate. I asked Mr. Hubbard to do a little research to see what some other cities around us have done recently. The city of Davenport is considering connection fee adjustments at this point. I don't know what those are, but I do understand they will have a first reading in October to adjust theirs. Lake Alfred, which was most closely aligned to what our proposed rates would be, theirs were adopted in December of 2022. Polk County's existing fees were adopted in October of 2019, and they are going through a phase-in process starting this year, and we'll see another increase next year. City of Auburndale had adopted their new connection fees in 2023. City of Lakeland presented theirs for adoption on September 17th of this year. Theirs also were a significant increase, I think a little more than double what their current rates are. City of Haines City had adopted theirs in 2021 and is currently undergoing another study to look at connection fees. Lake Wales adopted in 2020. I would expect that they will do a connection fee study in the very near future. Bartow had adopted theirs in 2024, Fort Meade in 2019. So that just gives you a little history, and as I shared, as you look at the future water supplies and alternative water supplies and costs of aging infrastructure, the continued growth that is happening across the entire state of Florida and what strain that puts on your existing systems, I would expect that if a municipality or county has not looked at their connection fees within the past 12 to 24 months, they will quickly be doing so in anticipation of those long-range capital needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
motion to approve ordinance O-24-42 on second reading.
thank you. I will now close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to O-2442 may do so at this time. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
so I'm going to vote for this. However, I do want to just be my broken record self that Mr. Mayor Birdsong has heard me before, and I just want to say, I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of growth paying for itself. However, I do believe that people, and I'll use myself as I have in other examples, I built a house 25 years ago and paid connection fees then. It's now time, I'm no longer a great customer because I'm using less water. My kids have moved away, and it's now time for me to downsize. I didn't cause any of this problem that we're having. None of this growth was caused by me, and I'm using me as a euphemism, talking about people like me that have been here for 20, 30 years. None of this growth, none of these problems that we're having is caused by me. So I feel like it's only fair, it's only just that we somehow figure out a way to give credits for people that have paid some sort of impact fees in the past if they've been here 15, 20, 30 years. Now, I know that's never been done before. Raptalis has told us that, and I hear it. But somebody's got to be first. It may as well be us. Why don't we go ahead and try to figure out something to do, because it is only fair for people that have been here as long as they have, that have carried the freight and paid the bills, and now it's time for life situation to be a little different, and to not get any type of impact fee or connection fee credit for what they've already paid. So having said that, I am going to vote for this because I do believe that growth should pay for itself, but there is a caveat. I'm not causing the growth. I'm going to be using less water and using less growth, but yet I'm still going to have to pay these much higher connection fees. So I just feel like it's not fair, it's not right, and we should try to figure out something to do. But I'm not going to hold up the vote. I want it to go forward, but that's just my position, and I'm sticking to it.
That's your word, and you're not changing. So,
Yes.
any other discussion?
I know this is strictly new construction though.
Right.
Correct?
Right, so if you were to build a new home that's not on the system today,
Correct.
you would pay that connection fee.
Correct. Understood.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. O-2442 is adopted. Commissioners, you have the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
thank you. I will now close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to any item on the consent agenda may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Hearing none, the consent agenda is adopted in its entirety. We have a resolution, Resolution R2441. Would you read by title, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution R-24-41, a resolution of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, reaffirming voting members, appointing an additional City of Winter Haven voting member, and appointing an alternate voting member to the Polk Transportation Planning Organization, TPO Board, providing a conflict clause and an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Mayor and Commissioners, in accordance with the 2014 interlocal agreement that created the Polk Transportation Planning Organization, more commonly referred to as the TPO, the city has provided voting membership on that board based on population. Presently, Mayor Birdsong and Mayor Pro Tem Yates are the voting members, with Commissioner Mercer serving as the alternate. The Governor's Office requested the TPO to submit a new membership apportionment plan based upon new census data. Based on the amount of growth in Polk County, the TPO board membership needed to increase from its current membership of 19 to 23, and it was determined Winter Haven was entitled to one additional voting member, bringing our total representation on the TPO board to 3. On August 8th, Governor DeSantis issued a letter to the TPO indicating the reapportionment plan has been approved. With the approved plan in effect, the city is free to appoint one additional voting member as well as an alternate voting member to the Polk TPO board. So at this point, what we're recommending is that you have 2 voting members now, that we ask that you appoint a third member from the commission, and then also identify who your alternate would be.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that Tracy Mercer be added as our third vote and Commissioner Dollison be added as an alternate.
Thank you. I will now close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this resolution? Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the commission meeting. Is there any commissioner that would like to speak? Yes.
Quick question, does it have to be elected, or could we appoint, does it have to be an elected?
Eric, can you answer that? I believe it does have to be an elected member.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does? Okay, just curious.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Hearing none. We have a new member and a new alternate.
Yeah.
Alternate.
So, Mr. Mayor, just confirming question from the attorney, we will construe that as a vote in favor of the resolution.
2441.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how,
It's just not worded that way in his motion, so I just want to make sure that
Oh, yes. Oh,
that
yes.
was
that
inferred.
was inferred.
Typical John.
For the clerk. so
Thank you,
the city
John.
minutes.
Thank you, John.
I knew what I meant.
I understood.
We're so happy to get another member.
And I think your next meeting, if I'm not mistaken, is in October, and we'll make sure that that's added to everybody's calendars, that
Yes.
you can be there.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance is first reading. The second reading will be on September the 23rd. Ordinance O-2433, which read by title only, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-33, an ordinance amending the Winter Haven Code of Ordinances, Chapter 21, Article Roman numeral 2, Section 21-83, Model Homes and Temporary Sales Offices, Chapter 21, Article Roman numeral 6, Division 1 Concurrency, and Chapter 21, Article Roman numeral 7, Division 5, Subdivision Regulations for the purpose of addressing model home construction prior to final plat approval, establishing a preliminary plat process, and cleanup of existing language, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing for codification, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, we had lengthy discussion on this during workshop. This pertains to Senate Bill 812, which was passed during the 2024 legislative session and becomes effective October 1st, 2024. In a high-level, macro-level view of what this does, it allows for developers to pull permits if they request a preliminary plat process. They can pull permits for up to 50% of the homes to be built in that subdivision. They cannot receive certificates of occupancy on those homes until a final plat approval is made, but it does allow them to begin the construction of those earlier than it would be otherwise. That Senate bill, Commissioner Yates or Mayor Pro Tem Yates, you mentioned that making its way through. I don't think it was referred to as the preliminary plat process at the legislative end of things. It was more about expedited development approvals, and that was what we had been tracking. It basically says that, you know, if the developer so requests, that we have to have a process in play to allow them to pull those permits on up to 50% of those homes while they're doing other infrastructure improvements on that site. Again, I think we had lengthy discussion on this the other evening. This is I'll soapbox for a minute and say this is another example of preemption, and certainly inconsistent with our efforts for home rule. But I will defer to Mr. Labby to answer any specific questions you may have on how this impacts us locally.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Yes.
I have to admit, I'm still uncomfortable with this, John, legally, and Eric. And I guess where I'm struggling, and I know this is a state mandate, and we don't have a lot of wiggle room here, I guess. Maybe we do, but where my problem comes is when there's a problem. You know, everything always is fine, hunky-dory, as long as there's no problem. I'm just concerned about how we're going to unravel a problem. If somebody's already been approved or already got 50% building permits and something happens. I was going to use salty language, but I won't. But if something really bad happens, I can just see this becoming an issue for us in the city. And help me get comfortable with this, John, that we're not going to get sued, or what are some bad case scenarios that we're protected against? I mean, I feel like, you know, I don't want to go through another landings deal where we have $1 million, you know, some real estate developer with rich pockets suing us for something, some promise, implied promise that we made, or some sort of a backing, implied backing that we gave that we didn't, but you know what I mean?
I'm not, well, I think I understand what you're saying. In this instance, I think the corollary maybe is true. In this instance, the problem I see is that we have a half-built subdivision, potentially, of vertical structures that have not obtained COs that are empty, and you have a developer that walks. And what they are required to do under the statute, and now under our code, is to post a performance bond in the amount of the project, I think it's 125% of the costs, so that will allow us to complete the project. It does not, however, resolve the issue of these empty structures that are sitting there in a ghost town, potentially. So that is the issue, and I think that, to me, that would be the worst-case scenario, that you have these structures that are in these unbuilt subdivisions.
Let's say we have a water main blowout and we can't provide water for 6 months, and they sue us because we can't get
Well,
their water or the sewer, or something happens and we can't provide services that we normally would.
Built into the statute and to the code provision that you have before you tonight is the requirement that the developer has to sign a hold harmless and indemnification agreement of the city for just that kind of thing.
For acts of God or whatever the.
Yes, sir. And I think if we've looked at it, the only thing that they can't release us from or hold us harmless or indemnify us for is the vesting rights if we tell them we're not going to give you water or wastewater. But for those instances, if there's construction defects or if there's a water burst or something like that, they hold us harmless. They take the risk. And there has to be an agreement. That's part of our process. That was the safety net we built in. In fact, I insisted on it. because I thought that was the only plausible way to move forward, and the statute allows for that. That's the quid pro quo. Okay, developer, you want all these good things, or this fast stuff? In lieu of that, you have to give some protections to the municipality. It isn't a lot, or put differently, it isn't as much as I would have preferred, but I think it does address that situation. Again, I get back to the overall scenario that Mayor Pro Tem Yates very astutely raised at workshop agenda review, and that is, it's not so much I'm concerned about these individual things that we're being held harmless for, it's the developer that just leaves. And we're left with a subdivision that isn't done, but you have 50% of the houses sitting there. And, that may be attractive for some capital fund managers that want to come in and distressed property and they get low prices for things. So I can't predict the economics of that. But that may be the only, it'll be a market-driven response as opposed to a regulatory-driven response that addresses that worst-case scenario. The other thing I would point out is these kinds of things happen. What do I mean by that? Senate Bill 812 and the laws that are adopted in Tallahassee happen because of things that occur in other jurisdictions. And so I would encourage every single one of you, and those of us that are able, is to speak with our legislators. I'm not advocating any particular position, but, at the end of the day, these are local issues that should be dealt with locally. And this is an example of preemption that is being, forced on us, frankly, by the state.
We have no choice here.
We have no choice. No choice insofar as, okay, are you going to violate the law? You violate state law, that affects other things that we're doing. We have quite a good relationship with various agencies of the state, as you well know. We get grant dollars from the FDEP. We get grant dollars from the Florida Department of Commerce. We get grant dollars from a number of state agencies, to include the Water Management District, by way of the Polk Regional Water Cooperative and other things. And we've developed a very good rapport because we have credibility and because we are doing things. The One Water Sapphire Necklace project that we're doing, I think that carries a lot of weight with a lot of people in Tallahassee. So my point is, to suggest that we don't follow the law is not a tenable one, but how do you change the law?
No. We're not
Can we
going to
vote yes under protest?
I mean, it's, you can,
When somebody pulls permits, let's say they pull their 50% permits and they only build 10% of their homes and they bail, do the permits still good for the other 40%, or and somebody new comes in, or do they have to reapply?
No, so I think that the solution that's in place is as John referred to, is a market-driven protection, in the sense that they're not unlike any other subdivision where a developer may bail and walk. The only difference is there may be half-built structures, vertical structures, on site. So we would have the bond in place. We could complete the infrastructure so that at least the roads and the water and the sewer and the lights and everything are in place. And then presumably, there's a loan, a construction loan on the property. And a bank would then, at that point, the problem is this takes time, but a lender would come in at that time, act on that note and take over the property, and then it would go out on the marketplace to try to recoup their funds, and then hopefully some other developer or entity would pick it up and complete the homes and finish the project. The problem, as you know, is that takes time.
well, and this is only good for 3 years.
And a new developer comes in, I don't mean to split hairs, but let's say we approved all white houses, for example, and a new developer comes in, they want to build brown houses. It's not compatible with it's already there. So the people that have already bought and made investments bought white houses, and that's all that's supposed to be in there. Now, the new developers coming in and they're going to put in mobile homes or whatever. I mean, they're going to change the complexity of the neighborhood because of the fact that they've got building permits already in place, and they can do what they want, or can they not do what they want?
The answer is yes and no. The answer is they have to comply with our code. There's a zoning district in place. If it's straight zoning, they have to comply with our regulations within that zoning district. So R3, R2 establishes the setbacks, establishes the minimum, home, living area for the homes, in all of those normal requirements. If it's a PUD, there may be some additional requirements in that PUD. All of that still stands.
Right.
And if another developer comes in and wants to complete the project, they have to comply with those ordinances and laws in place,
PUD, right.
or
and-
come before you and ask to amend them.
Right,
in
and
some way.
also keep in mind this preliminary plat process, there'll be a resolution that will be presented to the city commission approving the preliminary plat, and it will look very much like a final plat. And so there will be a preliminary plat that lots will be drawn to scale, there will be infrastructure shown, there will be proposed dedication shown. So in order to change that, if it's going to look different, then they're going to have to come back to the commission. And otherwise, they're sort of locked in. Once they get preliminary plat approval, they're locked in. Their final plat's going to have to look like this because they've acted on it and they've relied on it, as have we. So, I mean, there's a degree of built-in, reliance, if you will. Anyway.
Let me make a-
Comfortable with it, that's all.
Let me make maybe a reality kind of what I think could happen, Commissioner Dancer. If you think back to the housing bust,
Yep.
and we had a ton of new development that came in, and they go in to start putting in all their underground and horizontal improvements, their roads, their pipes, those types of things. The housing market crashes, and those sat. Right? They sat until something picked back up that made them viable to develop. That's kind of a reality that could happen if you had a housing crisis again, in which case now, in 2008, when that happens, you have a big open parcel of land and it's got some roads and it's got some utility stub out sticking up out of the ground, and that's it. Under this, you may have houses that have been built, so you've got some vertical structure in there at the same time. I think that's the reality of what could happen in there from a financial crisis. I think that if it's, the developer says, I'm out, I can't complete the project, the costs have gone up too much, or whatever the case may be, there's bonding to complete the infrastructure. And, again, banks or whoever come in and take that property and try and move it out as quick as they can. But I think that that's the reality of what you could see from something like this.
I've got no problem with the market changing. My problem is are the taxpayers going to be on the hook for something? And the people that have already invested or already built in there, are they going to be terribly unhappy with what the finished product is?
They can't move in because there's no COs on those homes.
Because that
There can't be a
happens-
CO until
Final
the
plat.
final plat approval, and you don't get final plat approval until everything's done.
And working.
Correct,
So-
and operational.
So they can build those homes, but they cannot occupy them. They cannot sell them. There's no certificate of occupancy on them. It's just giving them a head start to have a greater inventory of product to get to market once they have that final plat approval.
I think that was the intent from the beginning, wasn't it? That to deal with the shortage of housing?
Yes.
That this would expedite that, and then also to deal with homelessness was also another aspect of it too. So that's why it exists, I think, to the point that you just made, that we've had that. We've had structures, as you said, and during the bust. Some predict that perhaps there will be another one. We don't know. But I think that if the effort was to increase, the likelihood or opportunity, because we were dealing with a great housing shortage, and to address that issue, and some still predict that, will still say that we are still struggling with that to some degree, that we know that will change over time. But I think going back to the intent of the bill, I think that's why they were trying to do that, because there was that aspect of it, dealing with people who were houseless and could not find adequate housing.
There's no doubt that is true. There's an aspect of that. And I think the silver lining to what the city manager pointed out is, in this scenario, if we had a bust, you at least have a preliminarily platted piece of property as opposed to a blank slate where you have, so at least you have some degree of form and some degree of standards.
More attractive than, if you had to.
Maybe, in terms of, the preliminary plat does require a degree of detail that, is more than just conceptual.
Right.
And so I think that although it's a preliminary plat, you can't have COs. The preliminary plat is going to look, or the final plat's going to better look pretty much like the preliminary plat, or they're going to have some other issues on which they're holding us harmless against. If, for example, they don't build the house on the proper lot, or setbacks and all of those kind of things, which are all going to be denoted generally on the preliminary plat, if they choose to go through that process.
It's the spirit of it. It was, I guess.
Any other comments? Anybody from the audience that would like to address this ordinance on its first reading? Second reading will be on September the 23rd. Ordinance 02435, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida by amending Plan Unit Development Ordinance O-09-27, assigning Plan Unit Development PUD zoning district to 5 parcels, providing for administrative correction of scrivener's errors, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. General location, 16 parcels, generally located west of US Highway 17, south of Avenue R Southwest, and east of the CSX Railroad tracks. The area covered by this request is 20.02 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'm going to ask Eric Labby to give us a high-level overview of this item.
All right.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, V3 Haven Square Retail LLC is the petitioner. As John noted, the 16 parcels total 20.02 acres and are currently vacant. There's an existing PUD on the property, PUD Ordinance O-0927, was adopted by the City Commission in July of 2009. It generally allows for retail, restaurant, and office uses without exterior activities, and also allows for the development of up to 277 residential units. The maximum development intensity for those commercial uses is dictated by the primary mixed-use hub's floor area ratio of 3.0. Based on that total acreage and the floor area ratio, up to 2.616 million square feet of retail could potentially theoretically be developed there. The petitioner is proposing to redevelop the property with one primary anchor site intended for a big box retailer and 2 smaller outparcel sites. There are 4 proposed access points, 3 on US Highway 27 and 1 from Avenue R Southwest. The requested access from US Highway 17 will be subject to review and approval by the Florida Department of Transportation. The proposed uses are requested to follow the Commercial Highway C3 zoning district. Major modifications to the PUD include adding 5 parcels, eliminating the minimum lot width and lot area requirements, determining the setbacks, allowing for pervious pavement materials to count as pervious surface on the site, elimination of entrance, median, and landscaping requirements, revisions to the architectural design, increasing the amount of permitted storage, revisions to landscaping requirements to allow for impervious buffers to aid in the accommodating of the soil management plan for this site. As you may recall, this is a former agricultural use site, fertilizer site that has a soil management plan to deal with those impacts. Revisions to parking requirements to allow for a percentage of smaller parking spaces and an exemption from our maximum parking requirements. The surrounding uses are denoted in your fact sheet. There is adequate infrastructure in potable water, sanitary sewer, and transportation to accommodate this request. In fact, it is a major reduction in potential impacts to all 3 of those systems. The current PUD that was in place did not cap the amount of commercial, so that's why it was dictated by the future land use, and the development potential was so high. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land use of primary mixed-use hub, and all public notifications requirements were met. The Planning Commission did hear this on August 6th, recommended unanimous approval, and there were no public comments. Staff does recommend approval of Ordinance O-2435.
Thank you. The second reading will be on September the 23rd. However, if there's anyone that would like to speak to this ordinance, you may do so at this time. All right, thank you. Moving right along. Ordinance O 2438, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-38, an ordinance amending ordinance 11-03, the 2035 Winter Haven Comprehensive Plan by revising the future land use map series by amending the future land use on 14 parcels from neighborhood support future land use to primary mixed-use hub future land use, amending 49 parcels from traditional neighborhood area future land use to primary mixed-use hub future land use, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. General location, 63 parcels located north and south of Martin Luther King Boulevard and lying between 3rd Street Northeast and 8th Street Northeast. The area covered by this request is 14.94 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mr. Labby will present this item, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir, Mayor, Commissioners. Historically, prior to 2011, the area subject to this request was designated as commercial or retail or commercial office on the future land use map. In 2011, a majority of the area, excluding parcels located near the intersection of 7th Street Northwest, were designated as traditional neighborhood area as part of the adoption of the 2025 future land use map. The parcels surrounding the intersection were designated as commercial. Upon adoption of the 2035 future land use map last year, the previous future land use designations for this area essentially remained unchanged, with the exception of the commercial future land use, which was renamed to neighborhood support. In conversation with some of the property owners along this corridor, there was a desire to further encourage the development of mix of uses. While the adopted MX zoning district will allow for a mixture of uses, the underlying traditional neighborhood future land use designation, which was adopted with the 2025 comp plan, only allows for MX's residential uses to be allowed. Further, in the 2022 Florence Villa CRA plan, it contains goals and objectives encouraging the retention and recruitment of businesses along Martin Luther King Boulevard. So, high level, this is bringing this corridor along Martin Luther King Boulevard into conjunction with our Florence Villa CRA redevelopment plan, and it allows for the MX zoning district to be fully utilized as it was intended, to allow for a mix of both retail and residential uses. This was heard by the Planning Commission on August 6, 2024. They unanimously recommended approval. There were 5 individuals who spoke on the request. They spoke to concerns around traffic, noise, and the potential number of businesses and sewage. Those in support indicated community need for a grocer and healthcare centers. Staff does recommend the City Commission approve Ordinance O 2438.
Thank you. The second reading will be on September the 23rd. However, if there's anyone that would like to speak to this ordinance, you may do so at this time. Commissioners, you can speak if you, all right? Moving right along. Ordinance O 2439, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-39, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida by amending the official zoning map for consistency with the adopted 2035 future land use map, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
City Manager, is it going to be Eric?
It's going to be Eric, but I'll just say this is a very high-level cleanup of a lot of things that are out there, properties that had never been assigned zoning or PUDs that were issued at one point but are now much more in alignment with traditional straight zoning. So it is cleaning up a number of parcels across the entire city, and I think that probably summarizes it. I think we had good discussion on this the other night, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, the second reading will be on September the 23rd. However, if there's anyone that would like to speak to this ordinance, you may do so at this time.
And Mr. Mayor would note that this is a public hearing, I believe, Mr. Labby, that's
Oh, yeah, this is.
because of the
hearing.
nature of this particular type of rezoning action, so I think it was advertised public hearing.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone from the public that would like to address this particular ordinance? Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting, and we will have our second reading on September 23rd. All right, ordinance O-2440, would you read by title only, city attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-40, an ordinance amending the Winter Haven Code of Ordinances, Chapter 21, Article Roman numeral 3, Division 7, Compatibility, Landscaping, and Buffering Standards for the purpose of adding standards to promote and protect the city's urban forest, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing for codification, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is an ordinance that pertains to recommendations stemming from our urban forestry master plan. The master plan sets forth direction on tree maintenance and planting guidelines, makes recommendations for trees to be planted, and addresses mitigation and penalties for removed trees which are not diseased or dead. Proposed changes to Chapter 21 address development on private property and include the addition of sections 21-181 through 188, focusing on the city's urban forest, establishes definition section which defines applicable urban forestry terminology, establishes requirements for tree protection during construction projects, and provides a system to mitigate the removal of protected and specimen trees, as well as providing penalties for removal of these trees without obtaining approval. There's no direct financial impact to the city with this. The Planning Commission heard this on September 3rd and voted unanimously to recommend approval with no public comments offered. Staff's recommending this be advanced for second reading on September 23rd.
All right, thank you. Second reading will be on September the 23rd. However, if there's anyone that would like to speak to this particular ordinance, you may do so at this time. All right. New business, we have none. Commissioner Liaison reports. Commissioner Mercer.
Attended Governor DeSantis at the Polk SO, and he basically said that he is adding $8 million to the $20 million he's already signed into, I guess you'd say, for expending for public education, mental health, and drug rehabilitation of fentanyl. And I attended David Carter's retirement luncheon. Citizens, I had a meeting with the citizen suggestions for additional programming at the senior center. The Chamber Lunch and Learn, Sheriff Grady Judd, again at the field house. He has a lot of stories he can tell. And he always comes up with some good ones too. Crime rate's going down. And one of the things is he's still going to continue to arrest people who break the law, so. Attended Christine Samuel's retirement reception, attended the Main Street Ladies Night Sock Hop. There wasn't too many socks worn out downtown that night. So, and I also attended the Women's Resource Center, their 40th birthday party. So they've been helping women for 40-some years, but they're also with men now that happens to be, I guess, abused too with families, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Commissioner Dantzler?
Had a Arts and Culture County Arts and Culture Heritage meeting, and the purpose of this meeting was to continue to revamp our process of giving away this money that we're now giving away close to $2 million. And, you know, we do that here at the city when we give away money to charity, and we're always trying to improve the process. Well, we do that on the county level too, and it was an hour and a half meeting of just going through the minutia of all of the application process. And Dan Chesnica was a big part of that. He had written a really insightful letter to us all and helped us to figure out ways to get modern with the way that we hand down our awards for arts and culture on the county level. So also went to Christine Samuel's retirement program. I'm going to really miss her. She's one of my favorite people, and I love to see her back in the back all the time. Went to the grand opening of Love Chicken. Glad they're open. And Also, the,
It's Love Bird.
yeah, love bird chicken. That's what I meant. Don't get all technical on me now. Come on.
Only because it's part of my last name.
Okay, all right. Also attended Dave Carter's retirement party. I was so full from going to Love Birds. I didn't eat much, but it was good to see Dave, and I still can't believe he's leaving, but anyway, off he goes. And of course, the Haven Home grand opening, really proud of our city folks. T was there, and MJ was there. Everybody, it was just, and they're not even in the city limits, but the city really showed up to support this home for boys. And I was really proud of our city and our community for stepping up to make this happen. And I'm just hoping and praying that a lot of good things come out of that building, so. But thank you for being there, T, and all you guys that were there. So it meant a lot to them having everybody there. That's it.
Commissioner Dawson?
Yes, I was able to attend the luncheon for the chamber, and yeah, Grady had great stories, and the moral of the story, I guess, was that do not leave Wawa without paying for your drink, because you might be arrested, and $1,000 later. But it was good. It was, I enjoyed just the opportunity to share. Also, was able to go to the soft opening of the Love Bird as well. Enjoyed the food. It was very good. The place has been busy every day since its opening, I believe, on last Friday. And also was able to attend Christine Samuel's retirement. And Chris, I've known Chris out before she came to work for the city. Called her Sister Samuels from work in the church, and but she really had a great influence and brought a great energy to this work, and so I appreciate all her efforts, and with hopes that we'll continue to live up to some of those ideals, and we wish her well in her endeavors. She intends to spend time with grandchildren. And I know that.
Her terms, though.
Exactly.
She made that very clear.
Exactly. Well, that's the way you have to phrase it anyway. Also, was able to be a part of the kickoff today to perhaps probably the best class of Leadership Winter Haven. Started today, class 44. And so we had a good start off today, and I wasn't able to be with them tonight, but I'll be with them in the morning, Lord willing.
You said it was the best class ever?
Best class.
All right. Commissioner Yates.
Okay, just a couple things. So I attended Christine's retirement party as well. Wish her the best. She's done sit back and have a cup of coffee, she said. So best wishes. I hope I can make it to that point in life. So wanted to just say, I guess if Grady's coming after us, if we break the law, I guess we got to vote yes on 02433. And had the opportunity to sit in with the group this evening of City U. I think maybe there's a few of them that are still awake in there.
They're still over there.
Yeah. So, this is the fourth class. They've hit the midway point, and they got to spend the night with us. So, and I'll just reiterate what I said to them. I'm so thankful for that program that we offer to the community, and thank you to the participants that who sign up and go through that program, and they just that says a lot about an individual and their love of their community, and to learn the process. So thanks to Katrina for all her hard work in keeping that program flowing, and AJ did an excellent job this evening explaining how we work up here. So I even learned a couple things.
Does that mean she was making stuff up on the fly?
I can neither confirm nor deny, and cannot recall with any level of certainty exactly what was said. But that being said, great job, and busy calendar here the next few months, so lots to report coming up. But that's all I've got for tonight.
Thank you. I have a few items. Attended two retirements, Dave Carlos and Christine Samuels. And I've known Chris for a very, very, very long time, and wish her the best. Attended the Egg Haven, not Egg Haven, attended an ABC live telecast from Egg Haven. And if you blinked, you would have missed my comments. That's how short it was. They didn't give me a chance to even, I told them, I said, look, man, I can't even say my name in the time that you gave me. But it was on ABC News, and it was good. They were talking about, they've started what they're calling their new initiative, that voice of the community is what they're calling it. And so I was there, the mayor of Auburndale and Bartow were also there. And the director of the Voters League also was there. So it was good, all good. Plus I had a great breakfast from Egg Haven, even though it was at 6:45 a.m. So that was one of my highlights. Also, as I said, love Bird. I love the food. Had the collard greens that they had there, so I'm advertising for them. And they were good. Collard greens from a chicken restaurant. So that was good. And the Haven House, I think that's really glad to see that come to this side of the county. Lakeland has that type of facility over there, but to finally have one here. And what it did for me is I had never seen a water plant out there. So I had never seen that. So it was right next door. So that was good for me. And that's pretty much it. And tomorrow now, there are two events that I'm looking forward to. We have the Honoring the Heroes walk, but I'm getting the opportunity to present a proclamation to a 104-year-old lady.
Wow.
Here in Winter Haven. Did y'all hear me? 104. And it's sort of interesting in the proclamation that I'm doing. They say she likes a little drink.
Hello.
Still, so I'm saying, oh my goodness, that must be all right.
It's all right for her.
It's all right for her, but maybe not all right for a lot of the rest of us. But I'm really looking forward to that. And I just want to say this. I've presented proclamations to one other individual that was over 100 years old. And she was not born in America. The lady that I'm presenting tomorrow is born in the USA. So I'm really looking forward to it. That's it. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commission. Wish Christine Samuels, of course, knew her prior to her service here in Winter Haven. Wish her well. Was able to attend for a short time her retirement celebration, so nothing further tonight. Thank you.
City Manager?
Couple items, if I could, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. You notice the absence of my I guess, my left-hand person here.
Yes.
MJ is in Atlanta right now, along with several members of our Public Works administrative group. They are at the American Public Works Conference, the national conference that they do, so that your Public Works Department can be bestowed its accreditation. So I know that you've done that, some of you with our police department before. This is a rather impressive deal for certainly Public Works. So MJ is there representing my office to help them receive that accreditation. I think it was presented yesterday. Also, Tyler Williams is one of our employees, is graduating from the National Emerging Leadership Program within Public Works. He's the third employee we have that will have graduated from that. MJ and Brittany Hart both graduated, and we have a fourth member of our team in Public Works that will begin that program now as well. So that's very exciting and something that the city should be very proud of, having a nationally accredited Public Works operation. In 2 weeks, I believe it's on Friday, maybe the 20th, I think the date is, MJ and I will be traveling to Pittsburgh. This was previously approved by the City Commission. We will be representing the city at the International City County Management Association National Conference there, doing some continuing education. We will depart on Friday. We will return Monday morning at the crack of dawn so that we can be here for second reading on your budget and millage that night. Last thing I mentioned is strategic plan is continuing to move along. So you may recall you adopted that in July via resolution. We have now presented that plan to all of our city employees. I think I have maybe 2 more sessions this week, makeup sessions with some employees to explain how that applies to them and their role in carrying out those. And we look forward to beginning our presentation back to the commission 1 time per month at one of your workshops on strategic pillars and some of the impressive things that are happening there. Your first one will be in October, and it will focus on our efforts to enhance responsible government. So good things happening there. I've also been able to do already 1 public meeting out at our Four Lakes community, not inside the city limits, but certainly adjacent to us, and shared with them all the strategic plan. They were, I think, the first external group to get our citizen version of the plan. And to our folks that are in there with the City U, it's great that that program is ongoing. I do want to give a special thanks to Katrina Hill and her staff. They work collectively to make that happen. This class is now halfway through the program, and they will appear before you in about 4 or 5 weeks for their graduation. So looking forward to that. That's everything this evening, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Yes, sir. I just want to wish a happy early birthday to AJ, whose birthday is this Thursday, and also John, whose birthday is Saturday. So happy birthday.
Thank you, Vanessa.
And class number 35 is the best class.
Okay.
Right, Mayor Pro Tem Yates?
Okay. Amen.
Last 7.
I won't even give mine. Deputy City Clerk, you have anything? All right. Emergency matters not received for the agenda. Motion to adjourn. We stand adjourned.